Hey guys, Kyle here, and today we're jumping in with Resident Evil. Get to it! There are some things you experience as a kid that never really leave you. One of those things was Resident Evil. I didn't fully understand it at first. I was young, probably too young, and the games weren't just scary, they were unsettling. The music, the silence, the feeling that something was always just out of sight. It wasn't loud horror, it was tension, atmosphere, waiting. And that stuck with me. What made it different? Well, Resident Evil wasn't just about monsters. It was about the environments that told stories without saying a word. Long hallways, locked doors, notes left behind by people who didn't make it. You weren't just playing a game, you were uncovering something. Every mansion, police station, village, or ruined city felt like it had a past. Like it remembered you. Growing up with the series was fantastic. As I grew up, Resident Evil grew up too. It changed styles, changed perspective, took risks. Sometimes it leaned harder into action, which, that's okay. Sometimes it leaned back to pure horror. That's awesome too. But it never lost its identity. And in a weird way, it grew with me. What scared me as a kid became something I appreciated as an adult. Not just for fear, but for design, pacing, and storytelling. And also with growing up, Resident Evil 1. That's what started it all. Back on the PlayStation 1, 1996, when it came out. I think I played that game when I was about maybe 10 at the time. And it was one of those ones that it was the first game that got me into tank controls. And it was good. But still to this day, one of the games that I never really fully finished because there was a lot of backtracking back and forth and the whole map, different rooms. It didn't hold your hand. It didn't really exactly tell you where to go. And to me, that was a little bit frustrating in a way. But it's very memorable. Looking back now, I can see how much it shaped the things I love. My taste in games, my love for eerie spaces, mystery, and lore. Even the way I think about atmosphere and world building today. Sometimes it just needs to wait. And that is why the series hits for me. Not because it's perfect. Not because every entry is the same. But because it's willing to evolve. While still remembering where it came from. Just like we do. And now we have Requiem right around the corner. Can't wait for that. I'm excited. I know you guys are too. Growing up after playing a little bit of RE1, at the time it came out was Resident Evil 2. Now that one came out on the PS1 as well. And that one I played. That one I played all the way through. I loved it. It was great. Played as Leon and Claire. That was like a first for me. When you get to play two separate campaigns, two different scenarios. It was mind-blowing at the time. I think it was more ahead of its time than anything. And it was a great game. So good. And then my favorite one. Number 3. Resident Evil Nemesis. Yeah, that's such a good one. That was actually one of my main favorites growing up as just a little child. Because that was one when I got a PS1 back in the day. me and my dad, we would play that one. We'd go to Blockbuster. Blockbuster was a thing. back then. So we would go there. We'd get maybe 2-3 PS1 games, rent them for a couple of days. I don't remember exactly what we had. I know for a fact we did have Resident Evil 3, Tony Hawk Pro Skater 2, and I think Spyro. Just a basic variety. Oh, and Twisted Metal. That was a good game too. Twisted Metal 3 at the time. We played that one because we jammed out to the Rob Zombie soundtrack with that one. That was fun. But yeah, Resident Evil 3. It was one of the first games that me and him actually played together, and we beat all the way through. And that one was a good testament to my childhood, and I definitely have good fond memories of that game and playing it with him, and that's also why it's a good favorite of mine. And in 2004, one of the greatest games to ever emerge, Resident Evil 4. Now I got into this game because, again, back when we had a Blockbuster, we also had, no, it was a Hollywood Video Store. We had a Hollywood Video Store, and we had another store next to it, conjoined. It was a Game Crazy. I don't know if anybody remembers those. We had a Game Crazy there, and this is back when I would get more games to test out for the PS1 and such, and I started getting a PS2 at the time. Anyways, so we go into the Game Crazy, and there was a GameCube on display, and they had a demo booth, basically what it was. It was a demo booth, and we were able to test out the Resident Evil 4 demo, which back then we had demo discs and stuff, and that game was revolutionary, introducing the first third person over the shoulder perspective as Leon, and it was just literally the first 10 minutes of the game, where you start off outside of the car on the bridge, go to the first house, go down the valley into the village part where you're fighting all the Ganados, and then you have the chainsaw guy who pops up after the fight, and then that was it. You face it, demo ends. Oh, what a rush. I pretty much stayed at that store for like a good hour and played the hell out of that demo until they told me to leave. I was literally, it was near closing time, and I was playing it for an hour, just being memorized by it for the GameCube. I didn't have a GameCube at the time, so I couldn't really play it. One of my friends had a GameCube though. He didn't have the game yet, but eventually. And then I got a PS2. It was actually kind of nice. I was working at this thrift shop back in the early 2000 days, and I got a PS2 Slim bundled. It was out on the store, and some customers that knew me well and was always happy to see me when I was working. They heard whispers that I wanted it that day, because it was in the back. I was like, I want it so bad. I was worried somebody was going to take it. Luckily enough, it was near Christmas time, and I was fortunate enough that they bought it for me. Yeah, it's pretty crazy. They bought it for me. It was a PS2 Slim with like 2 memory cards, 3 controllers, and all the cords for it, and it was in near perfect mint condition. And I pretty much had it for like past 12 years up until recently, but it still worked. I had it, and it was a great gift. It's fantastic. So when I got that gifted to me, I went home, plugged it all up, and I went to the game store, and I bought Resident Evil 4. I bought Resident Evil 4, and I also got Outbreak, because it was a bundle sale for like $30 at the time. And I was like, oh hell yeah! So I got to get this, and I also had Spider-Man 2, which is a classic. So I had a couple of those games. Eventually, I bought more. Had a huge collection. But yeah, no, I went home and I booted up Resident Evil 4, and I played that for about 7 or 8 hours that day, and I was so mesmerized. And I started from the beginning, and I got all the way almost near to the end of the castle section on my first whole playthrough, and it was so good, so mesmerizing, and I loved it. It was fantastic. It's always going to be a staple of my first for real favorite game in the whole franchise. It still is to this day. It's so good. And then a couple years go by, I start getting an Xbox 360 and PC, and my buddy Zin got me into more of the series. He had a Wii at his place and got me into Dark Side and Umbrella Chronicles for the Wii. Fantastic ports. They were great. Not ports, they were full games. He did have a port of the Resident Evil 4 for the Wii. It was interesting, to say the least. It was interesting. I didn't really like the control scheme as much, but it was good, nonetheless. So he got me into those games, and then we played on the Xbox 360. We got this game called Resident Evil 5. And Resident Evil 5 is a very good game because, despite what all the negative critics out there and people will say, I look at it as like with RE5 and RE6. I'll bundle those together, okay? And I will say this, so at least in my opinion, personally, they are the best as co-op horror games. Maybe not as much horror in 6, but they were really, really good starter for the co-op experience. They really, really was. 5 started it with Chris and Sheva, and you got to play with your buddy. Now the AI, back in the day, when you're playing solo, AI was janky. It really was, and that's fine. But when you're playing with a person, it just added more experience, and that was a lot of fun. More in depth, and you could just come up with your own fun stories and ways to play it with your friends, and it was fantastic. So the same with RE6, because RE6 was good because it had a lot of replayability aspects. Because again, you have like 4 main campaigns, all these replayability modes and different stories to play through with your friends, and it's great. And then we get 7. 7 was a very interesting introduction into the story. It goes back to its horror roots, and you play as this person named Ethan Winters, who you have no idea about. He's just kind of some nobody who ends up in Louisiana looking for his long lost wife. And then the whole thing with the mold virus and the megamycete in Village. It's pretty good. It's a good story. It's brand new. It's nice. Kind of delves away from everything, but it's a new take, and that's totally fine. We are allowed to have these new stories. We're allowed to explore different people's stories on the outbreak since it happened. I initially didn't really like 7 at first, because I got that when I got a PS4, and it was kind of difficult for me. It was new, but my buddy told me, hey, here's an idea. Try playing this in VR. I said, what? What do you mean, VR? He's like, yeah, PlayStation VR. So I didn't know anything about PlayStation VR back then. And then I finally bought one after a year. But then, you know, I got it. Finally ended up playing 7. And I was about halfway through beating 7. And then I got my VR headset. And then I started playing it off that save in VR. Now again, you still have a controller, but you're still just looking around aiming with your face. But just that alone, let me tell you, that is literal game changing. And after that, I kind of never went back to playing it flat screen again. I would only play it in VR mode because I like the immersiveness. I love being in the world of Resident Evil. And the same came with Village, you know, a year after the game's released, because now we're having PSVR modes come out after games do well and people want it, which is fantastic. So yeah, PS2 is great. And then a couple years go by, we finally get Resident Evil 2 remake, Resident Evil 3 remake, Resident Evil 4 remake, and now we're getting Requiem. And I'm very, very excited about Requiem. And that comes out in February, and I'm very excited about that. And yeah, I'll be seeing you guys there on stream. We'll be playing it multiple times, and then hopefully it'll get a PSVR release, and we'll play that too. So yeah. And then now I get to be in a Resident Evil fan film. Like, holy crap. With the original cast from the first game. That's amazing. So, story time's over for that one. And I'm gonna get going. But hey, I appreciate you guys. Hope you guys enjoyed the story. And yeah, we'll have more of this again. We really will. More story time's pretty fun. So, hope you guys all enjoyed the video. Be sure to like, subscribe, share around if you can. And yeah, we'll see you guys in the next video. Take care.